welcome to my next playthrough series, this time the Cards of Cthulhu. You can play this game apparently from 1 to 4, but I find it works actually best as a solitaire game, so I will be playing a one-player complete playthrough. I also have the expansion, which adds the Nyarlathotep board up here, so you have 5 boards instead of 4 with the base game. Adds a few more investigators, and we'll randomly pick an investigator for our playthrough. I'm not going to go over the rules really at all. We're just going to take a look at the help sheet, some of the components, and then I think we're just going to pick our investigator, and then we're going to get right into it. So let me just zoom down on some of the, on the help sheet, the dice. We'll pick our investigator. I'll explain a little bit about how the game plays. Basically, you have each cult has their board. This is for minions. You have horrors, minor, major, and unspeakable, and you have gates that can show up. And I'll explain how that works as we play. I'm going to be doing the, like I said, the complete playthrough with all cards mixed together, so it could be long or it could be extremely short. The game, of course, involves dice and random card draws, so you just never know how well or horribly you're going to do in this game. Alright, let's take a look at the help sheet and some components and pick our investigator. Alright, not 100% sure how clear this is, but it basically is the rules of the game kind of condensed. Of course, there are rule books that come with the base game and the rule book that comes with the expansion to explain everything. So, at a nutshell, we basically have 3 dice that represent our hero, or investigator in this case, that's going to be playing the game. You have a body die, which is a red color, and 2 health die, I think they're called, representing basically your basic roll that you're going to need. And you also have 4 white dice, are called spirit dice, and they basically come into play if you cast spells. I'll just quickly go over this. So the turn order is reactivate followers. So there are followers in this huge double-sized deck of cards with the expansion. And the idea is we're going to go through all of these to try to win. Yeah, it's going to be tough, or nigh impossible. Then we're going to draw cult cards. These are all the cult cards, and they can be things like investigations, minions, gates, horrors, and I'll explain, of course, as we draw them, how each of them functions. You have experience tokens, these nice little metal tokens. You have 10 ones, and the expansion comes with 5 5s in case you need them. So the turn order is basically reactivate followers if you have any, if you've used them. Draw your occult cards, and we draw 4 cards, plus 1 per gate. Then we're going to purchase. If investigators or items come up that we can buy with our experience, we will do so, or we don't have to. And then we awaken the horrors, and I'll explain how that works when we do it. And then we have a sanity loss. If any horrors are awake, we take a sanity hit. Basically, taking sanity hits means we're going to be losing experience. If you cannot lose the experience through a sanity hit, you go insane and you lose the game. So that's one way to lose the game. And then we have place cult powers, I forgot. The expansion comes with 2 cards per board, so per cult, there's 5 cults, and they add buffs to that particular god. Yeah, making it even harder. Then we awaken horrors and we have a sanity loss. Then we have combat, and we decide which board we can only target 1 unless we cast the hurry spell, which costs 2 experience to perform a second attack, but you can only do that once on your turn. So we target an investigation if there is one that came up in the draw, or we target a board or boards depending on if you play a hurry spell. Then we're going to roll the dice, and then we get 1 re-roll of the dice, but you cannot re-roll 1s. So that's the only limitation there. And then after you've finished all that, you go to your outcome, and you do a defeat check. If any board has 5 or more minions on it, you lose. And yeah, that's the check for loss. And victory check. If this entire deck has been gone through, I think it's 216 cards, or 200, somewhere like that, with the expansion, and there are less than 4 minions on the board and no horrors in play, you win the game. Sounds like a piece of cake, doesn't it? Yeah. All right. So there's our investigators, and we'll just randomly pick 1. And there's 10, I believe, in the base game, and you get 4 more in the expansion. So we're going to be playing that investigator. No idea what it is. Let's take a look. We're going to be playing the detective. Okay. And her special ability is she's a gumshoe. She can freely roll 1 investigation die against any investigation. Oh, that's really good, because you really want to make sure you do your investigations. All right, so we're going to be the detective. Here's our basic pool of dice. Here's our giant stack of cards. So without anything, when we start off, with 4 experience. We're going to take 4 of these nice tokens, and that is the 4 experience we begin the game with. And then we just start. So the first thing we do, of course, we follow the turn order. And I'll explain wounded and experience you get for killing or closing gates, defeating or, yes, not taking followers. I'll explain it all as we go. All right, let's get right into it. And I'm going to just readjust the camera. And the first thing we're going to do is draw the totally shuffled deck. I shuffled this about 20 times, so I don't know how good or bad I did it. But we'll find out very shortly. So first thing we're going to do is draw 4 cards off of here. Let me zoom out and let's get into it. All right, so following the order, of course, we would reactivate any followers. Obviously, first turn of the game, we don't have any. Now we draw cult cards, and we're going to draw the top 4, and it doesn't really matter the order you draw them. You just draw 4 cards off the top. And we have a look and we see what we get. Well, we have the Necronomicon item. We have a Bayaki, and they're color-coded yellow, so this is going to be ending up going on the, oh boy, I won't be able to pronounce it, Shanar Fong board. We have a minor horror for Cthulhu, and we have a cultist leader going on Nyarlathotep. So this is going to become something we can purchase. These immediately go out on the board. So let me just zoom out and we'll put these out on the appropriate god boards. All right, so the first we can put out is the Bayaki minion, and you'll see there's a 3 in the upper left-hand corner. That's the die roll you need or higher to defeat it. The 5 goes out on Nyarlathotep in the minion area. And now this one is a minor horror, and it is the Cthulhu one, but because when the horrors first come out on the board, you'll see here a 2 minion minor horror, 2 dice, 3 dice, 4 dice. This is a minor one, and it will go here. Face down, because it is considered to be sleeping. If you get 2 or more minions out here, then this horror will awaken. And we'll talk about defeating them once we get into the combat zone. So that was drawing the cards. Now we're into the purchase phase. And let me zoom down again. We'll take a look at that Necronomicon, see if we want to buy it. All right, so taking a look at the Necronomicon, it's very powerful because it will cost us 4 experience to buy it, and we start the game with 4, so we could buy it, and it just says discard any gate. So if we pay 2 experience, we can discard any gate. Madness has always been man's destiny. And I believe these were backers of Kickstarter that put the little quotes on the cards. So, we have a decision to make whether we want to buy the Necronomicon. If we do not buy it, it will go in a discard pile and we'll get 1 experience for it. Boy, that's a powerful card, but that basically uses up all of our experience. But you know what? I think we're going to go ahead and we're going to buy it. So that's going to cost us 4 experience. So that's dangerous because now we have no experience left, which could be a bad thing, but we do now have the Necronomicon. And so that was the purchase phase. Now we place cult powers. And we didn't draw any, so we're not going to place any cult powers. Then we awaken horrors. Now this horror would awaken if there were 2 or more minions, but there are not, so it remains sleeping. And let's see, sanity loss. Any horrors that are awake, you take the highest horror, and that's how many experience you need to lose if you face them, or if you have a follower, the follower can go insane and save you the trouble of having to spend experience. So, but that's not happening. This guy's not waking up, so we're not going to suffer any sanity loss. Now we get to the combat phase. So we could target investigations, but we didn't have any investigations. Now we can target boards. And you can only have 1 board attacked, so you cannot attack 2 boards at once unless you do the hurry spell, which costs 2 experience. I have no experience left. I can't do that. And so I think we're going to just pan up a little bit here. I think we're going to take on this sleeping horror. Now how you do this, This is a 2 dice sleeping horror. So I'm going to be rolling my red body die and my 2 health die. And now I could, if I had experience, for every 1 experience, I could buy a spirit die. But I have no experience left. And so we're just going to go ahead and roll these 3 dice. And we're trying to get any 2 dice, because it's sleeping, will immediately defeat it. Now if I roll a 2 or a 1 on this red die, I will take a wound. Because fighting it, or correction. When any horror is sleeping, you need to roll a 1 on this die to take a wound. And what taking a wound means is you lose one of these green dice. So that would be extremely bad. So we want, it doesn't matter what we roll, we're going to defeat this sleeping one. It is not defended by anything. There's also a hierarchy of protection, but this board only has 1 sleeping horror on it, so we're going to be able to take it out. All right, let's roll the dice, and we'll see what we get, and I'll explain from there. All right, we're going to roll the 3 dice, and we do get 1 re-roll, but you cannot re-roll 1s. All right, so what did we get? We got a 3, a 4, and a 4. And so again, if we had rolled a 1 on our body die, we would have taken a wound, but we didn't. And so let's go back to the Cthulhu board, and we will destroy that sleeping horror. All right, so here we are. We took on the sleeping horror. It's got no protection. If there were minions out, the minions would protect the sleeping horror. And you'd have to defeat the minions before you could attack the sleeping horror. But again, this is the only one here. All I need to defeat this particular sleeping horror is any 2 dice. So I'll just, those 2 destroy the sleeping horror. And because it was a 2 dice minion, that is going to net us 2 experience points. And that is basically the end of what we're doing. Now, because we have 2 experience points, if I wanted to right now, I could spend them and do the hurry spell, which would cost 2 experience, and then I could perform a second attack. At this point in time, we only have 1 minion out on our Thotep board and 1 minion out on the Chognar Fog board, so I think we're just going to go right into the next turn. And the next turn means we just reset, or we check for defeat conditions. Obviously there aren't any, and victory conditions, yeah, we have hundreds of cards, or 190 some cards yet to go through. So let's do another turn or 2 and see what happens. So again, start of turn, we're just going to take off the top, we're going to take 4 cards and see what we get. So this time the 4 cards, all right, well we got a follower that we could purchase this time, so we'll put him here. We have a cursed scroll. That is not good. We'll have to take a look at that. We have 2 more horrors. They're both minor horrors. One now, another Cthulhu minor horror, so it's going to go on this board. And we have a Nyarlathotep minor horror, so it's going to go face down on the Nyarlathotep board and on the number 2 dice spot. So I'll just go ahead off camera and put that up there. Same as the Cthulhu one, it sits here. All right, now we need to look at this because we are now in the purchase phase. However, this cursed scroll I don't like. Pay 2 experience or draw 3 cult cards, and that's going to happen right now. So we either have to pay 2 experience, which is all we have, or we have to immediately draw 3 more cult cards. And I think that's maybe a mistake. I'm going to pay the 2 experience. I'm not going to bother drawing those 3 extra cult cards. We have enough trouble. Now the problem becomes we cannot purchase the ritualist now because he would cost 1 experience. Well, we don't have 1 experience left. So we're not going to deal with this card. And I forgot, when you deal with a bad card as well as you do not take, well, hang on, kind of messed this up. So we dealt with the cursed scroll, which actually is going to give us 1 victory point because it's an item. I believe that's how that works. If that's not correct, then I apologize, but it says for every item and follower you either deal with or do not purchase, you get an experience point. So I believe for dealing with the cursed scroll, we've had to spend 2 experience to not draw 3 cult cards, but because we dealt with it, we do get 1 experience point. And now with the 1 experience point, if I want, I can buy the ritualist. And I think I'm going to do that so we have a follower now, and it's going to cost us the 1 experience we just got. Okay, and now we look at place cult powers. Well, we didn't draw any cult powers, then we awaken horrors. And again, the Cthulhu only has no minions, so this 2 dice is not going to wake up. Now let's just readjust. We're going to take a look at the Nyarlathotep board, see what happens there. And not sure how well it's focusing, but up here we only have 1 minion, and we need 2 to awaken this horror. So this horror is not going to awaken because there's only 1 follower. So we don't awaken any horrors, which means we're not going to suffer any sanity loss because no horrors are awakened right now. And now we go into combat, the combat turn. And I do believe we're going to try to take on the Nyarlathotep board. We don't have any experience left to buy spirit dice, so we're just going to go ahead and we're going to use our 3 dice. Now the cultist is going to protect the horror, so we need to knock the cultist out first before we can tackle the sleeping horror. So let's go and roll our 3 dice and see what we get. Let's see what we get. Now let's hope again that we do not roll a 1 on the red die. Alright, well we rolled a 4, a 5, and a 3, and I believe that is going to be good. So let's go back to the Nyarlathotep board and deal with those dice that we just rolled. Alright, so up here in the Nyarlathotep board we rolled a 3, a 4, and a 5. Well, we need to deal with the cult leader first. The 5 is going to knock him out because there's a 5 on the upper left corner. That is going to get us 1 experience point. Put that on my character. And of course that die has then been used. And we have 2 other dice, a 3 and a 4. And because it's a sleeping horror, we can use any dice. We don't need what's called a combo. Combos are either pairs or triplets or a quadruple of the same number, or a run, a 1, 2, 3. In this case, if it was awake, we would need like a 1, 2, a 3, 4 to knock it out. But we knocked it out with any 2 dice because it's sleeping and it no longer has protection. That also gets us 2 experience points. So now we have 3 experience points, and the Nyarlathotep cult board is completely empty, which is good. And let's do 1 more turn and see what we get. And I know what you're thinking. This game's a piece of cake. Yeah, let's find out. The next 4 cards off the top, we have some more. Well, it looks like we have all minions this time. We have a Bayaki for Nyarlathotep, so I'm going to put that up in the minion track up there. For him, we have now 2 for Arwasa, I believe. So these 2 minions are going to go up on that board, and I won't show you every board placing everything. And this is and these get, some of them go up to 10, so they can be pretty tough to knock out. And this is now a Cthulhu, and it is going to go right here on the Cthulhu board. Now this minion is protecting this sleeping horror. However, we're not in bad shape. There was nothing for us to purchase that time because all 4 cards were just minions. And so now it is time for us to do an attack. And I think for simplicity's sake, I'm going to attack the Cthulhu board because I want to get rid of the horrors as fast as possible. Even though we have 2 cultists now up at Arwasa, we could possibly attack twice as well if we can save 2 experience. But I think I'm going to spend 1 experience right now because we're going to attack Cthulhu. Oh, I'm sorry. We should go through the turn order in correct sequence. So we drew the cult cards. Purchase, there was nothing to purchase. Place cult powers. We didn't draw any cult powers. Awaken horrors. Well, this is the only horror on the board, and it only has 1 minion, so it will not awaken. Sanity loss. We don't have any sanity loss because no horrors are awake, and now it's into the combat. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to attack the Cthulhu board. I'm going to spend 1 experience to purchase 1 spirit die, so we have to roll that as well. And now let's take on Cthulhu. We're going to go and roll our 4 dice and see what we get. All right, once again, we're going to be rolling dice. This time we're rolling 4, and 1 is a spirit die. And what do we get? So we have a 1 here. We cannot re-roll that. We cannot re-roll that. So we have 2 1s and 2 4s. Wow, that's pretty awful. That is pretty awful. However, we don't suffer a wound because we didn't roll a 1 on the red die. Now I could re-roll that and try and get a 6. So I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to re-roll that one. We got a 2. Wow, it was even worse. All right, that was my 1 re-roll. Again, you cannot re-roll 1s. I could have re-rolled this, but if I did and I rolled a 1 on the re-roll, I would take a wound. So I only have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 total on 4 dice. Let's go to the Cthulhu board and see what we can do with that. Well, that was pretty god-awful. I was hoping to knock this guy out and then go ahead and take this one down. And what I have here is, of course, I have a 4, so I need a 7. So 4, 5, 6, 7. So adding up to 7, I knock out this particular cultist. Now that's going to get me 1 experience point for knocking out a cultist. However, I only have 1 die left, and 1 die, I need 2 dice to be able to take out the sleeping horror. But I have a cunning plan, and my cunning plan is going to be, I'm going to spend 2 experience points to cast the hurry spell, and it means perform a second attack. And my second attack is going to be back again on the Cthulhu board, and I will be able to roll my 3 dice, and obviously 2 of them will be enough to take out the sleeping horror, and I really hope I don't roll a 1 on that one. It's back to the tray and roll to try and take out the sleeping horror. All right, back at the Cthulhu board for our second attack this turn. We can only do that 1 time. And I roll a 6 and a 6 and a 5. So any 2 dice will knock out the sleeping horror, and we didn't roll a 1 on our red body die, so we don't take a wound. All right, let's go to the Cthulhu board, knock out the sleeping horror, and I believe that's going to be the end of this episode. All right, so with our 3 dice here, we just use any 2. We'll defeat or destroy the sleeping horror, and that is going to give us, because it's a 2 dice sleeping horror, 2 experience points. All right, so we end off this turn and the end of this episode. We're going to have a total of 3 experience points to begin the next episode. We have the Necronomicon, which we can spend 2 experience to discard any gate, and that will become pretty good to do. We have a Ritualist Follower. Now, as a 0 cost during our combat turn, we can move any minion with a value of 2 to 4 to any cult board. Well, right now I'm not going to bother. Let's zoom out, take a look at what we have on the board, and that's going to be the end of the episode. All right, so pretty hard to get everything in view with the 5 boards. If it was just a 4 the base game, I'd be able to do it. But so we have our investigator, the detective, with 3 experience. We have the Necronomicon, we have a Ritualist Follower. The Yog Sothoth board has nothing on it. The Arwasa board has 2 minions, a 7 strength and a 2. Nyarlathotep has 1 minion, strength 3. We've cleaned the Cthulhu board off, cult, and the Chognar Fong board has 1 Byakhee, 3 strength minion. So far, so good. And of course, that's famous last words, because this game, you can think you're doing okay, and within 1 or 2 draws of the cards, you can be destroyed. All right, well, that's the Cards of Cthulhu with the expansion, which is Beyond the Veil. Everything in the mix. We're going to try to do a complete playthrough, win or lose, likely lose, but we have to get through an entire deck of cards, 200 plus cards. We've gotten through, I don't know, 10 cards so far, so we're about 5% of the way or so. All right, well, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Join me next time where we continue battling these 5 horrific gods from other worlds. And we're the detective, the gumshoe, and we're going to try and close down all of these cults before we get driven insane or one of the old ones awakens and eats us for lunch. All right, thanks so much for watching, and join me next time for the continuation of the Cards of Cthulhu.